ceasefire. And viewers, let's start the bulletin with some crucial developments coming in regards to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia does not want a war with European powers, but is ready to fight if Europe did not want a direct conflict with Moscow. Putin has also accused European powers of hindering U.S. President Donald Trump's attempts to end the war in Ukraine by putting forward proposals they know are unacceptable to Moscow. Let's listen in first to what Putin said.
Только вопрос в чем? Если Европа вдруг начнет с нами войну, мне кажется, что очень быстро, это же не Украина. С Украиной мы там действуем хирургическим способом, аккуратненько, так? Чтобы, понятно, да? Это не война в прямом современном смысле этого слова. Если Европа вдруг захочет начать с нами войну и начнет ее, то очень может быстро произойти ситуация, при которой нам не с кем будет договариваться.
Meanwhile, Putin has claimed that the eastern Ukrainian railway hub of Kupiansk has been under Moscow's control for weeks. He's added that Russia would shortly also capture Kupiansk Vizlovy, a Ukrainian settlement in the south of Kupiansk. Now, Putin has also threatened to sever Ukraine's access to the sea in response to drone attacks on tankers of Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. Listen in.
Там еще один населенный пункт, который называется Купянск-Узловая. Вот там, по-моему, 2000 зданий. Там идут боевые действия. 600 зданий, где-то около 1000 уже, 600-650 в руках российской армии. Идет продвижение. Я думаю, что через несколько дней мы заберем и этот тоже населенный пункт. Но это отдельный населенный.
And now request Irina Sukuman, senior journalist, joining us live from New York. Thank you, Irina, for joining us here at NewsX World. Now, one of the key sticking points, of course, is the use of Russian frozen assets as far as European Union is concerned. What do you think are some of the others on which Putin has now, in fact, gone on to warn Europe of a war with it?
He seems to be using nothing but threats as his leverage. At this point, the issue of the frozen assets should not be a matter of controversy. This is not an early stage of the war where it's not clear which of the oligarchs were involved in financing and which weren't. It's very clearly that everyone who is backing the Putin regime is backing the war. It's one and the same. And there should be no question about the fact that Russian state assets and Russian private assets by assorted oligarchs and companies and supposedly private entities are all benefiting the war effort and all are in violation of international norms. Just like everything that Putin is doing, not only in Ukraine, but in provocative and aggressive actions inside other European countries is also in violation of international laws, in some cases quite aggressively so. The internet cable cutting under the waters, for instance, is yet another example of completely illegal behavior that is contributing to destabilization. And of course, illicit trade, money laundering, all sorts of illicit activities, all of these are more than sufficient to justify releasing these resources towards collective security.
Irina, now Putin has also threatened to sever Ukraine's access to sea in response to the drone attacks on tankers of Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. How do you view that?
I think the opposite is much more likely, given the fact that the Russian Black Sea fleet is practically non-existent. Most of it has been successfully tanked and drowned by the Ukrainians, and the rest has had to retreat far, far away from that vicinity. So I think these threats are empty, and to the extent that that Russia is continuing making these threats, this is as good as time as any for Europe and other allies to assist Ukraine with severing Russia's bridges connecting Crimea and the rest of the Ukrainian territories, and make it impossible for Russia to carry out its threats and to pursue any sort of concerted activity in that area. In other words, the tables need to be turned. Russia should be in no position to make any threats to anybody.
All right. Well, thank you, Irina, for joining us and giving your comment there. With that, viewers, we are now going to move on. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has addressed the Irish Parliament, thanking the country for its steadfast support. Zelensky has called for pressure to stay on Russia during his speech at the Irish Parliament. Listen in.
Ireland has stood firmly and clearly for our independence and for a just end to this war. So thank you for your steadfast support for these years of standing with us. And thank you for not losing faith in us. All the pressure on Russia must remain in place so that Russia does not believe it will be rewarded for this war with stolen Ukrainian land or kidnapped Ukrainian children.
And Zelensky has also said that Ukrainian territory issue is the most difficult issue. He's added that it is Russia's goal that the U.S. withdraws from any engagement with Ukraine. Meanwhile, he has also stated that he hopes to meet with U.S. representatives as soon as possible after Russian President Putin's meeting with U.S. envoy Steve Whitkoff in Moscow. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha has said in a post on X that Putin has consistently made statements that demonstrate that he does not intend to end the war. He's added that it is time now to force Russia to end the war in Ukraine. All right, I would now request Irina Sukuman, senior journalist, to join us back in the discussion here. Irina, Zelensky's remarks, how do you view them, given that many have been saying that the peace plan is rather tilted towards Russia? But here Zelensky is saying that Russia wants the U.S. out of the peace talks.
Look, the entire so-called peace plan is actually a surrender plan that was masterminded by Russia and sold as an influence operation. The fact that Whitkoff keeps falling for these plans, and he has advised Russia on how to circumvent U.S. resistance to this, is just another example why he is not qualified to lead these talks at all. Unfortunately, Russia has actually very few cards left, and it keeps replaying them. The only thing in its favor is that the U.S. administration, which appears to have very few to no Russian experts, keeps falling for the same tricks the entire time. Had it not been this case, this conversation would have been entirely different from the very beginning. The pressure would have been on Russia to make very significant concessions and then eventually to withdraw, not on Ukraine, which has been defending not only itself, but also serving as an effective buffer against continued Russian aggression well into Europe. We are seeing the replay of these outdated Russian propaganda ploys because Russia needs to divert attention from its own military and economic losses, and it's suffering very heavy losses, and its progress is, no matter what Putin may claim, is actually quite incremental. It's incredibly slow, especially given the disparity in size and alleged military might between Russia and Ukraine. That only underscores the extremely slow progress Russia is making, and the losses it has suffered in actually losing some of the territories it claimed early in the war. So actually, time is on Ukraine's side. Time is on the side of the allies, and the U.S. has every means at its disposal to force Russia into very serious concessions.
All right. Well, I thank you for joining us, Irina, on News X World and giving us your perspective. And with that, viewers, we will now move